realized that there were no women in the room except for me. I didn't care. I'm there to do a job. I'm ready to go. Well, when the men sitting at the conference table realized, I think there were like 18 men there, 17 of them stood up, one remained seated. And one who remained seated said very loudly, "Who's this gal here? What's she doing in here?"
After doing our research, we wanted to see if what we had found was true, so we conducted interviews.
My name is Joanne Sting, and I'm the assistant manager at University Books on King Street.
My name is Jordan, and I am the store manager for Blue Mercury on King Street.
My name is Robert Gastebro. I work for Apple.
My name is Lynn Ford. I am a professor in the political science department, but I'm also currently an associate provost for curriculum and academic administration.
Probably no, not in the true definition, no.
No.
Absolutely.
I guess in some ways, but not like do I walk around screaming feminism? No.
Is the lady who wants you to open the door for her, that type of thing? Or?
It's not a title that I would give to myself. However, there are some aspects of my thinking that I think are more feminist than not.
No.
No? Why do you think that?
Just because it's getting better. You always see a disparity between salaries, between top executives, men and women, whatever. And even here, where I work, you see that. And it's that women have to prove themselves harder. They say, yeah, I can do this because it's still a man's world, so to speak.
I mean, I had women managers, I'm a manager, that made the same or more money than I made. So it's really just based on tenure. As far as I know, it was always based on tenure, how long you've been there, what kind of experience you brought to the table.
Right.
So I feel, at least with those two companies that I have experience with, that I know anything about, I would say that it was very, very, very equal.
If you just listen to the news and the big deal that is made when a woman is put in some position of authority over a big corporation, it's something that's out of the ordinary. It's not the norm.
I can see here at the college that there are opportunities that are not officially, technically, legally out of bounds to women, but realistically, women are excluded by the ways in which relationships are formed, by the ways in which professional opportunities are offered. They're not the same.
For instance, corporations like law firms, where if you are a woman and you decide you are going to have a child and you're going to take 3 months off, and it could be unpaid leave or partially paid leave, when you come back, you might just find that all of your clients have been reassigned, and I have big problems with that.
Part of it is women are scared to ask to be equal. I think that we are accustomed to thinking that we are lesser than men in the workplace, so we're willing to settle for less.
No.
No, you've never considered that?
I don't know yet. My career's not over. I think there's certainly. I've thought many times that I might have had different opportunities, or opportunities might have been extended earlier or at a different time if I had been male. But I've had lots of opportunities at the college.
No, not particularly, but I have to say I've been in retail, which is fairly a female-centered, dominant world, and so there's a lot of strong, powerful women in retail. Although I will say that the majority of companies that I've worked for, there are very few female CEOs. I think Blue Mercury, where I work, and I also worked for Neiman Marcus in Dallas, who has Karen Katz as the CEO. We're probably the only companies I've ever worked for that have female CEOs.
Wow.
So there certainly was like a good old boys club. But I was successful at my job. I worked really hard and paved my way, and it led me to other opportunities. So I can't say I've ever really experienced the typical glass ceiling.
Yes, sometimes. It depends on the position that they're in, whatever. I think women can be much more organized and detailed and multitask.
I think that women tend to be more sympathetic, and so maybe they can appeal to a more comfortable, better workplace, emotionally wise. But I also think at the same time that can really hurt. Women also tend to be more emotional, so sometimes logical decisions don't come into play as much. We had this debate when watching Hillary Clinton try to vie for the presidency. It's one of those things where, on the one hand, I would love to see a woman take a leadership role, and on the other hand, I wonder, would she be able to handle a crisis the same way that a man would, strategically and systematically?
I think women do possess different qualities. I think men and women are in many ways dispositionally different. I'm not sure better or worse.
I think it really depends on the specific situation, the kind of corporation or environment you're in, and specifically the characters of the individual. I'm not so big on the generalizations.
I think in my experience, women tend to be more collaborative. Not all women, but women in general tend to be more collaborative. They tend to want to discuss things more before reaching a decision. They're more comfortable with consensus rather than hierarchical decision making, and that's a huge generality.
And sometimes it is not whether you are a man or a woman, but it's whether the individual human being has certain qualities that you want to see in that particular position.
It's really important to be able to prove that we're just as much left brain as we are right brain, and just as much right brain as we are left brain. And so I think that still is probably a prejudice that still exists, whereas women aren't necessarily good with numbers. But that's not the case. But I think that's probably why CEOs end up becoming, or end up being men, because men are good with numbers, and numbers are the bottom line. No, absolutely not. I mean, I it's certainly dependent on the companies that you work for, but no, I don't think that there's any rules that have to be followed in order for you to be successful. I think you have to learn your own path to be successful.
Well, if you look at the South, where we live, or where you go to school and where I live, it still has the feel of an old boys club, so that's why I'm surprised that there's actually a woman running for governor. I don't know that she'll win or not. The polls say yes, but that remains to be seen on Tuesday. But she's going to I think she'll have a hard time fitting in to that old boys club, where she's going to have to, wear pants and be more, not maybe soft like a female should be, that she'll have to kind of fit in and be able to have to prove herself that, I'm one of the boys, I fit into this club.
The sort of norm is, I think, a male norm. So if you're thinking about it in those terms, I think there are some male rules. I mean, I think because men occupied the workforce, the public workforce, nearly 100% for a long time. I mean, I think all the rules were men's rules. And I think it's difficult to negotiate away from that 100% norm. I think it must feel to men, I'm not a male, but I think it must feel to men like when we renegotiate those norms, they're giving something away, that it's a zero-sum game, that there's only so much power to be shared, there's so much decision-making to be shared, there's so much money to be shared. And when they give in order to allow women to come into that arena, it must feel like they're giving up a lot. So I think there's some men's rules. How do I negotiate them? I mean, the first trick is figuring out what they are. I think a lot of times when I am not successful, it's because I haven't figured out what the rules are. And whether those are male rules or just rules of doing business, I'm not sure. But I think the first order of business is to try to figure out what they are.
Si la photo est bonne, juste en deuxième colonne, y a le voyou du jour qui a une petite gueule d'amour. Dans la rubrique du vice, y a l'assassin de service qui n'a pas du tout l'air méchant, qui a plutôt l'œil